This is Rafique with Planted Not Buried, and I got a very special guest who's not only a journalist, but also a real estate agent as well. Let everybody know who you are.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Melea VanOstrand. I'm a real estate reporter at the Daily Business Review in Miami, and then also a real estate agent with the Kai's Company. So that's a little bit about me. I moved here to Miami last April from Chicago. I'm originally from the Midwest, but I moved around to South Dakota, back home in Indiana, and also Wyoming as a journalist throughout my career.
Why don't you talk a little bit about why you got into journalism?
Yeah. So ever since I was young, I've enjoyed storytelling. One of my best friend's mom is a local anchor in Indianapolis. And so she would pick us up from school a lot of the times because my mom would work late and we would spend some time in the newsroom. I loved reading and I wanted to tell stories, but I didn't want to be an author. So my mom was like, well, you know what? You could join the high school journalism team. And so that's what I did. And I fell in love with it and decided that's what I wanted to major in.
When you started journalism in high school, why don't you talk about like the difficulties of understanding what to do as a journalist, from interviewing to getting something published to knowing what you're talking about when you're interviewing the person?
People. So for me, I started in high school. I started with interviewing my friends. They had a lot of different backgrounds. So I interviewed about them about their journeys. And then I was like, okay, let's make a career out of this. And so college really helped me with the fundamentals that you need in journalism to be able to have those skills and learn about ethics and everything that comes with being a professional and everything you have to know with that.
Where'd you get your college education, and how did that develop your journalism skills a lot better than you did in high school?
Okay. So I went to Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio. It's an HBCU. So I went there and majored in broadcast journalism. So really, I credit my professors for really teaching me the skills and giving me opportunities outside of class to learn how to work the camera. So I really learned at a student chapter. And so I actually had an event for young Black journalists in the area. And I met a lot of my mentors that I have today. And so they said, you need to get an internship, you need to do your resume, you need to make a reel. So
HBCU is a very important part for any African American individual or people in general that's trying to like bring it to the journalism industry like yourself. So like, what do you decide that HBCU college is more credible for your journalism career compared to any other college across America?
I can't compare it to any other college. I'd say everyone's experience is different. I don't know if one's better than the other, but I will say for me, it was good to be around other people like me and who are Black in journalism. So they know some of the struggles that Black journalists can go through in the newsroom. And so it was great to get that perspective. But as far as skills, I don't think there's really a difference where you go. So
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you learn journalism any way you can learn it, and you felt
Mhm.
that was a good space for you. I mean, when you work, I mean, you mentioned certain events that you covered, and you learn how to operate a camera. Like, why don't you talk about some of the events, type of events you covered, or were you doing journalism in the college level at Central State University?
Yeah, so college level, at my internship, it was great because I got to have that real world experience. I was covering car crashes. There was a tornado in a nearby city, so I got to go cover that. Or a murder, and you get to go to the trial. So it was great to get the real world experience, but also on campus when my professors would have me shoot some of their events, there would be round table discussions like for them. Or one teacher had a production company, and so I would go with him to the church and shoot the church services. And so that was a really cool experience to get a variety of different things, so I could figure out what I was really interested in the most. I think that was really helpful.
Okay, that's very interesting. It's very interesting to talk about it. Obviously, that's. Did you ever have like a little bit of a problem with covering these dark topics like the car crashes, the shootings happened around your area during your internship?
No, that actually interests me. I have a master's degree in criminal justice, so crime and kind of the gory stuff, I have an interest in that. I have to take my emotions out of those situations so that I can cover them fairly. Um, so they haven't really taken a toll, even professionally. I would say there professionally, there were some moments where it did, like hearing the screams of family members or friends when they first learned that their loved one has passed away. So that does get to you, but in the moment, you have to have that professionalism. But back in the car or back at the newsroom, that's when you can, kind of let that out. But it can wear on you. But I try not to let it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense because I've interviewed people that were doing the dark topics that they cover when working in news journalism does take a toll on their mental health. And then that's when
Mhm.
I ask you what I ask you, and obviously you managed to fight through it, and obviously you were shining while working in that internship. Well, like, what's the name of the media company you interned in, by the way?
At ABC 22, Fox 45. I don't know if the name has changed, but that's what it was back then, in Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton, Ohio. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, and I'm glad that you managed to experience everything that you experienced during your time. But well, when all that was all said and done, obviously you became a real estate agent. How did what led to you decide to go for a real estate certificate as opposed to real estate license, let alone a career?
So, I want to do a little bit of both. So I've been covering real estate professionally for the past year, well, a little bit over a year, here in Miami. So doing all of those stories, I was like, you know what, you can make some great money in real estate. I already know a lot about it because I talk about it every single day. I have these great connections in real estate. So I was like, you know what, I might as well get into it myself because it's always great to have that extra income. But not only that, you don't want to go into something like, oh, I'm just going to make extra money. It's a business that you run. So it's something that I want to combine my passion of storytelling and meeting people and being a part of the community with also helping people find their homes and helping them with their lives. It's more so about that than the money. That's great, but I want something that I can be passionate about. And real estate is something I didn't know I would be passionate about until I started this job. So I think it's a really big blessing that I took on this job. It was something different than what I was used to. I was used to doing TV throughout my career, but I wanted to try something different and I ended up really, really loving it.
I was always told that real estate and journalism can tie each other together. There, even if you preferably prefer to do journalism for something else, but it's good that you're actually doing that.
Mhm.
So yeah, when you're a real estate agent, it's like, why don't you talk about like the different tasks that you had to do in the real estate agent side?
Actually, I'm finding there are a lot of similarities. Um, you do a lot of door knocking, you do a lot of cold calling, you connect with people in the community, and have conversations with people. And I've had those skills in journalism. When you're getting MOS, man on the street, you go talk to people, you on doors. Hey, I'm Melea with ABC 22 or wherever. And I'd like to talk about this. I'm doing a story on this. So it's the same thing. It's just different. It's just kind of a different field. So the skills are very transferable. It's a very social field to be in. And so I'm finding that I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. I'm loving connecting with the community and learning more about people and where I am in the areas that I cover.
Lots of people struggle to find homes no matter where they live. So there's no way compare. It doesn't really matter like where you're doing it. And I mean, well, actually, it does matter because a lot of people, when they're looking for homes in Miami, they always try to make sure they go to the right person, not just based on the quality of the house on its own, but based on affordability. And
Mhm.
pretty much managed to do that.
Yeah, and right now it's hard. Housing is affordable housing is pretty hard, especially in this area right now, but it is still possible, and there's a lot of programs where especially first time homeowners can get advantages. And no matter what someone's situation is, you can be in a home. A lot of people think that if you have bad credit or you don't have very much money saved, that that just automatically eliminates you, and it doesn't. There's a lot of options for people, so that's part of our job to communicate that to people. You can also own a home or you can also rent. We help people rent as well.
Yeah, and all that based on the home, like on the buyer's interest, what they look for in a home, and how much are they willing to spend. Because there's a lot of people that can't really afford certain homes that they really want because they either don't save enough or they just like they always think about having money to spend so they can actually buy equipment in the houses that they purchase.
Hmm. Yeah. That thankfully the housing prices are starting to level out. So that's really good for buyers. There's not as much competition last year, the year before during the pandemic when everything was going so quickly. So now people who are renting, um, only because they couldn't find the house of their dreams, they're now starting to go back on the market and look for that home that they really want.
Yeah, that's also true. And obviously, for the journalism side of you managed to like tell stories about about the real estate industry, different stories about the real estate agency. And when you focus on the stuff you just mentioned, like when you cover real estate stories, like what are some of the focuses you have?
So I really don't focus on residential real estate. I speak more about commercial real estate. And so everything that's happening with offices, and the industrial market, hospitality. So that's some of what I focus on, and also litigation surrounding some of those transactions. Today I covered a story about how four tenants were at a commercial building were kicked out and they were given 5 minutes just to leave the property. And so there's a back and forth about, like, the landlord claimed that that the structure wasn't sound and that they had to get out immediately because there was potential for collapse. And so apparently that's something that could be happening around South Florida a lot more ever since the condominium collapse in Surfside last June. That was the big story here in South Florida last year. 98 people passed away in that tragedy. But there's a ripple effect from that, and that's affecting a lot of things that are happening in South Florida. So I've been covering a lot of that aftermath as well.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And I'm glad that you're actually able to keep up with everything going on in the real estate field, whether it's as a real estate agent or so and as a journalist. But why don't you talk about like how your stories impact the community?
Hmm. Yeah, it's important to I feel like in this job I really am helping the community because I'm helping businesses and attorneys, which is really who our audience is, kind of figure out the next steps and the trends that they should focus on with their business. But also when it comes to real estate, what's happening in the market, that's important because I never really thought about how much real estate really affects so much of how everything works around us. So it's definitely a community, I would say community based job, really, both of them.
And as a real estate agent, do you have any like housings and stuff that you like to share with people down in the Miami area that are looking to buy new homes?
At this moment, I do not. I'm still pretty new agent, so I don't have any listings right now. That's something I'm working on. But I am helping a few people who are looking to buy, so I'm helping them find their dream homes at the moment.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Well, I'm glad you're able to do whatever you can to make sure that the Miami residents will not Miami, Florida residents are able to find the homes that's right for them.
Yes.
So why don't you talk about like, I mean, I know you probably just mentioned this earlier, but like the inspiration towards doing both journalism and real estate.
Mhm. Really, this sounds very cliche, but I'm a mother, and so my children are really the inspiration behind everything I do. I want to create a comfortable life for them, but I also want them to see that it's important to have a kind of job where you are involved with the people around you. With journalism, I'm informing, I'm being fair, and with real estate, I'm helping people. So that is the example I want to set for them. And those are kind of values I would like them to see and reflect in their lives. So that's really my inspiration behind all of that.
Wow, I'm glad you had somebody that inspires you to continue striving in everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about where people can actually find you in social media?
Yeah, so on social media, I'm on Instagram. I have two Instagrams, my personal one, and then on my personal one, there's links to my business accounts. So Melea VO, Melea VO, which is my first and VO VanOstrand, my last name. So that's where you can find me on Instagram. And then on Twitter, it's Melea VanOstrand. And then it's also Melea VO on Facebook as well. So yeah, that's where you can find me on social media, and also LinkedIn. LinkedIn is also another great resource. So you can find me on there as well.